and I was pretty excited about that.
Nice. Hey, how's it going?
All right, so congrats on that. But
Thank you.
I'll have you hold off on it until everyone's here, perhaps so you can get some motivation by other people from your story. Otherwise, things have been good, Nick.
Yeah, things are great.
Looks like you're moving in.
My girlfriend is redesigning our living room.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the business has been so good that you guys are redesigning your whole
Yeah, artwork's going up.
your whole home. Nice, nice.
Yeah, and we're doing like some furniture flipping and stuff too,
Okay.
as a little side hustle. So there's some extra pieces around. But yeah, things are good. I got a sign call yesterday, despite not having a sign out front. Um, and yeah, converted it into an appointment today.
Nice.
So talking with them, they've got a property that they need to list in Fraser Heights, and yeah, and then they're gonna buy in Fort Langley. So
All right. So you had a sign call off the internet basically because you didn't have an actual sign
yeah,
on the home. You said.
yeah,
What do they reach out to you regarding?
they're just reaching out to see if the property was available, if they could see it, and it's like, oh yeah, it's sold already, of course. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So like, yeah, that's like for sure. Um, the board's backed up
Yeah.
these days, so they don't have your listing as sold in for 5 to 10 days after it's actually sold. So use that as leverage. So when you get buyers calling on it, you can tell them it's sold, and if they don't have an agent, then yeah, it opens the door for that for sure.
Yeah, it's perfect. So it's like, what a great meeting to be in. How to win buyers. I mean, technically they're sell by, but it's
You sell and buy, yeah,
yeah,
and that's usually what happens. Or if they buy now, then they'll sell in 5 years, and then they'll be
yeah,
lifelong clients.
yeah. So
What we're gonna do.
good, pretty good.
So if you guys want to get started, there's a tracking form on the side. I think that's the one. Fill that out. Even if honestly, like, even if you were out golfing all week and you're enjoying the weather and you're putting all zeros down, just put it in because it still helps us average out numbers and see where people are having troubles with or really succeeding. And so where we see numbers go up, we can keep hammering that point and doing what we do. But if we do see like a dip in numbers, whether it's in conversions or lead gen, it really helps us. Even whether you're talking to 100 people or no one. Is anyone on the Rogers network for their phone?
Yep.
It's like down today, and if
BC,
you
BC
are,
and
yeah, if you're doing offers today on a listing side, you might want to have a conversation with your client, or even on the buy side, just be in better communication with the listing agent if you are on the Rogers network, because they might be calling you with any kind of news, and you might not receive it. So maybe stay within Wi-Fi and use the touch-base program, or let them know that you'll be WhatsApping them and emailing them. Multiple offer Mondays. Alrighty, so it's 10:06. We got a light group, so it'll be nice and intimate. It would be nice if everyone turns on their cameras and whatnot, just so we can see your reactions and we can get questions as well. Our coach said that if you showed up to a class, you wouldn't show up with a paper bag over your head. So it's always better to see each other when we're in these. So yeah, I do want to start off with like a huge win, and I know like as Canadians, like we have a lot of humility, and no one wants to like brag about themselves. So I thought I'd ease Nick into his big win. So how many of you were in Chris's class about for sale by owners about 5 weeks ago? Get a show of hands. Mickey, you were, yeah. David, you definitely were because you show up to all the classes and.
Yeah, I think I missed one or last week, but I think I was there.
For sure. And it was just a class on FSBOs, how to find them, what scripts to say. So yeah, Nick took action on that. I remember like the day of, he texted me and says, "Hey Hiroshi, your script worked. I just called a couple people from Craigslist and I got an appointment right away and I booked it for this week. Anyway, I'm gonna go find more FSBOs." I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." It like I know for sale by owners it's not easy, but if you're very delicate with them, you try to work with them, like it works. Do you want to take it from here, Nick? You want to go through the process that you went through and what you found over the last week?
Yeah. So I started with the FSBOs, and I got a couple appointments out of it just out the gates, and you have to just like follow up with them constantly, because one of the guys that I first interviewed, I just called him, and I took a week and a half off calling him because I'm busy and he's listed with somebody else. So, it happens, but
it's not fast. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just kept it going and just, I ended up calling FSBO out in Langley. The guy had been trying to sell it by himself for like the last 2 years. Just kind of got my foot in the door there by using scripts and looking up a bunch of YouTube videos on just, how to win over FSBOs. And got in the door, and it was definitely tough. He was very specific about how I should list the home.
Telling you how to do your job for you.
Yeah. But I was just like trying to find ways around everything, because like his biggest stress was just the cleaning, and I was just like, fine, I'll pay for cleaners to come in, and we'll just do it like that. And just took the stress off. He's like, well, we don't want to do showings all the time, and so just put them on the 2 days there on the weekend and get it all done there. Essentially, it went really well. We had a good turnout, and offer day came, and an agent informed us that we weren't showing up on New Home Registry properly. And I had never heard of this. The owner is a owner builder. So, I don't know if any of you saw my message in the chat that day, but it was like probably a good learning experience for a lot of you. So I was scrambling to try and call the board, call our management broker, figure out like how to do this, because he had occupancy for the property. And it's one of those situations where, like, at first everyone just told me cancel your listing and take it off the market. And essentially this guy would not have come back to me. Like, he would have just, he told me straight up, like, we settle this like today, or I'm going to list with somebody else. I don't care. So, really did kind of my homework on it. I looked up legislation. I got a legal professional involved, a lawyer to, not only counsel myself, but counsel him. And what the lawyer found was the legislation and what BC Housing was telling us was wrong. Because I tried calling BC Housing. Each time they told me, no, you have to take it off the market. And I was like, well, I have the legislation in front of me. It seems that that doesn't make sense with what you're saying. And I'm like, can I speak to somebody who knows the legislation, or someone above you or a supervisor? And they're frankly like, government workers. Just like, no, sorry, they're not available right now to do that. So yeah, you'll have to wait till you get your owner occupancy, or owner declaration in 3 weeks. Yeah, so I called the board. I called our managing broker after talking with legal professional. They gave me the go ahead. You've exhausted all your options. My legal professional gave me and the seller a clause to put into the contract to, just say, you don't need this. And yeah, essentially made the deal happen. We looked at offers the next day, and it sold 250,000 over asking. So.
Yeah, boy, it was a lot of work. It would have been a lot of work whether it was a for sale by owner or not. How much was the list price?
We listed at 1.938.
So essentially a $2 million for sale by owner.
Yeah.
Listing.
Sold for 2,190,000. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Now we're looking. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The buying side now, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, and it sounds like this person knows exactly what to do, how to do it. So he'll keep telling you how to do your job as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but there's certain points where you educate and you try and just give them as much information as possible, and then regardless, if they think one thing, you've done your best and you've told them their information they needed, and now it's up to them to decide what they want to do moving forward. So.
And I suppose that you're going to check on New Home Registry if he's going to put an offer on a house that's less than 10 years old now.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, it was 10 years past. That's why I was like, this doesn't make sense, because the whole reason you'd want your New Home Registry is for insurance purposes, if something was wrong with the house.
Mm-hmm.
And 11 years old, so it's past your 10-year anyways.
Yeah.
There's no reason.
Which is the conclusion I came to. And then when you talk to the government workers, nobody wants to be held accountable for what they say. So they're just saying, I don't know, just so they can get off the phone and move on, which is...
They didn't even say, I don't know. They specifically told me, no. And well, I have your legislation in front of me. I know your Homeowner Protection Act better than you do, and your own regulatory rules. And they're like, no. Your language doesn't make sense. I've already talked with a lawyer. Silly.
That's frustrating. So for those of you who don't know, I'll share the one sec, where the BC New Home Registry is. You can all see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to put this link in the chat box. You want to save that onto your bookmarks. This is how it comes up here. And any house that's less than 10 years old, you want to put in single or multi if it's a townhouse, and then put in the address or the PID, the property ID, the 9-digit unique number. And then it'll tell you who the builder was, who they're warrantied with, whether it can be sold or not. In recent years, this is one of the biggest complaints and the most common issues that realtors are getting their hand slapped is they're not checking the New Home Registry, nor do they know what it is. It's very simple. All you do is you write in the street number and the city and the address, and then it'll tell you whether the house can be sold or not. And then if the house cannot be sold, then it's up to the seller to register or figure it out basically before it closes, because otherwise, who gets? I think it's the buyer that's on the hook at the end of the day, or is it the seller? Aman, do you know a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it's the buyer.
They have to go through all their classes, and then it's just a nightmare for, yeah. And then that's how realtors get in trouble, and then they might get sued. But I know for the most part, it's about a $5,000 fine, and then they have to take all the classes.
What the council told me too was when I called, they're like, "You've done all your due diligence. You've done the best you can do."
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, council's not going to argue with a lawyer. So when in doubt, get legal advice, because yeah, they're like, the board's just trying to make sure everything's in order. But if you have a lawyer behind you and saying that this is how it is,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to fight you on it. Is what they've told me. But,
Nice.
yeah. So
Good to know. Yeah, and the key with having a lawyer in your back pocket is always refer your clients to 1 or 2 lawyers, because what they're gonna do is, as soon as you call them for legal advice, they're gonna check their files, see how many pieces of business they've gotten from you, and then if you haven't sent them any business, they're either not gonna help you, or they're gonna take a long time, or they're gonna send you to their paralegal or something. Yeah. So always send, there's a ton of good lawyers in the area, who specialize in real estate law. Spagnolo. We send a lot of business to Rick Payne in Port Coquitlam. He's nearby. He's really good. Yeah. So keep those in mind. Alrighty, so we'll get started on how to win buyers. Any questions from the last week? If you guys weren't here for it, Nick sold a for sale by owner that was $2 million, and it was a really good experience. That's why it's good to take action, and then just start calling people. That's the best thing you can do for your business, is get into action. Start talking to people, start calling people, and don't get intimidated by those big listings too. What I've noticed is the people who own big houses and who are well off, they're some of the nicest people ever. If you have to go through some gates and telecom, and you have to roll up to their castle, you end up talking to them face to face, and they've paid their dues and gone through it and created their own business, that they know exactly where you are, and they end up being some of the nicest people. And even if you don't get their business, they might they're very well connected, so they might think of you in the future. If you guys could turn on your cameras, that would be awesome. Like I said before, if you show up to a class, you're not going to show up with a bag over your head. That'd be nice. Thanks, Thomas. Alrighty. Present now. Window. All right, is this working?
Yep.
I can't see you guys, so thanks. So here's where we are. There we go. Here's where we are as far as the little baseball tournament we got going. We'll do this till the end of the quarter, which takes us to June 30th. Aman's team, so Dylan, Erica, Maz, Shannon, Andrea, Arsh, Desella, Mickey, Nick, and Lynn. So you guys are on one team. So these are these numbers are based on what you report to us. And I know, there's a few people who haven't reported, and we hear from you all the time. Like, we get texts from you, so we know you're active. But if you don't put your numbers into the Google Forms, we can't put you as part of the score. So how it works is, if you book an appointment, that's 0.25 of a point. If you get a listing or a buyer, that's half a point, called a double. And then if you get an accepted offer, that's a triple, so you get 0.75. And then if you close a deal, then it's 1 full point. So we're actually quite close. Stella, Francis, Jane, Manvier, Nick, Pantazis, Nicole, Roger, Cindy, TJ, and Zaith, and Neelam is on my team. And then, like I said, like, the winning team at the end will have like a little picnic. The coaches will sponsor it, and we'll have some pizzas and beers at the park nearby. And we'll have some fun. Any questions?
Nope.
We expect smack talk, by the way.
Hey, Chris. I can't
Sorry, but I just gonna put some fires up.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah, have some fun with it, guys. You guys should be cheering each other on. It's a competitive industry, but obviously, I want you guys to be holding each other accountable. I'll now. That's fun.
Yeah. So if you missed it from before, it's in the chat box. The first link is the Google Forms where you put your name. Oh, one more thing is, if you don't see your name on here, it just means you're still in R1. You're welcome to join these Monday calls and Friday calls, but with R1, you report to Carol, you get your first 2 deals done. You're really working on your fundamentals. And then once you finish your first 2 deals, we'll put you on a team. And you're in R2, we call it. Red 2. All right, we went through your wins, input your... Any challenges someone's facing? Let's go through 2 challenges before we move on.
Still having issues with my duplex. Probably gonna cancel Protect that and wait until the fall because of there is a lease until September 15th. One party understands that it's probably pricing. The other is just in la la land still. So I'm hoping that with a little bit of time, they recognize if their intention is to sell. So.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea to me. Like, in this market, if you're not getting offers, then it would be better to try in the fall, or maybe when their motivation's higher too.
Yeah.
And tenants is always a challenge to work around, and then you put COVID on top of that. Yeah, seems like a good idea to me.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you have 2 choices. You can improve the condition or improve the price, right? And if they're not willing to do either or, then the market's spoken.
Yeah, at this point, the free market's spoken, and those words are pretty strong.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for sharing, Nick. One more challenge that someone's had in the last week that perhaps we might have some dialogue or about. No one's had any challenges. It's just sunshines and rainbows everywhere.
Smooth sailing. All right. Is everybody getting their calendars? Are they sticking to their calendars? Are your calendars owning your life? Are you having challenges with your calendars? Schedule. That's a challenge that everybody of us face. So where are you guys at with that? Like, are you having trouble finding time to lead generate or follow up or prospect or script and role play? exercise, any of these things that good?
I found my calendar was too much. And then when I was skipping over things or going, oh, I'll try and get back to that later today because something came up or a call. So I made all my stuff a little bit longer in duration, and I added maybe 20-minute gaps in between, just so I don't feel like I'm losing the battle.
Yeah.
It's wise. Yeah. And it's like booking a showing, right? You book a 15-minute showings, you start getting further and further behind the last show, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm like an hour late. And it's because you just didn't leave time to drive, to talk in front of the house or whatever that looks like. And you're
the natural stuff.
And you should have flex time in every day, right? There should be some time that's built in for unforeseen, like fires that just happened to me. So that's where, you know, my one call runs into the next call, and then I'm somehow something's got to give. So, and usually it's stressful in that moment. So,
yeah, I like to try and answer text messages as quickly as possible. And yesterday I was pressure washing and doing stuff, and I missed a message come through in the afternoon from new sellers that are getting ready to list. They're about a week away. And when I finally got back to it, I'm like, oh, hey, super sorry. I was also doing yard work and stuff, and looked at her pictures. I'm like, oh, you guys did great. We're getting really close to photos, whatever. And she's like, oh, David, she goes, you're a person with a life and a family also. Don't feel bad for not answering right away. Thanks very much. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, you realize that I'm a human too. Okay, that was nice.
Robo Dave says,
oh,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's nice because not everybody has the same expectations as, I texted you 5 minutes ago. Why aren't you telling me what this house sold for? Because me and the wife are trying to find our next listings to go see, and we need you to give us answers. So yeah, it was refreshing.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah, you need those moments, right? Just a little time just to recharge and do something without your phone blasting or just being social media to death. So enjoy them. Okay, well, the big thing I think right now is like we're really wanting you guys to put time aside for yourself. That means in the morning, you know, eating well and exercising and getting your energy up, and then getting the prospecting going and getting the follow-up and that scripting, and that'll carry you through the day, because then you get your appointments, but you've got the big chunk of like your work is done, your job is done, your prospecting is done in the morning, so that your afternoon, if you don't have any appointments, would you feel guilty about going for a hike or going and cutting the lawn or doing whatever if you prospected beforehand?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy that hike? Do you enjoy doing this, whatever that fun activity is, versus if you didn't do it, like, right? That's our natural tendency. So let yourself off the hook by doing your job for a few hours every day, and you're going to feel really good about the outcome, and the results will show up too.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a while to like realize like this is in my first year of real estate. It took me a while to realize that I have to put in drive time, and on top of that, I have to put in lunch times. Like I was eating drive-through half the week because I just run out of time, and then it'll be 3 p.m. and I'd be starving. I just forgot to eat.
I can attest to the back of his vehicle. You'd get in there and be like,
yeah,
that
McDonald's wrappers everywhere. So yeah, like lunch, drive time, and then, you know, put into consideration traffic too. If you're coming from Vancouver and going to Langley at 3 p.m., like it's gonna take you twice as longer than you think. And like being late, it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to like Ryan Serhant the other day. He's on a rant or whatever, but it's like the one thing you can control and it will make you stand out more than anything else in this business is being on time. That means being early, on time at 5 o'clock, 4:55. You're there. You're able to prepare. You're able to take a breath and then get your thoughts in order. That's how you are different than 90% of other realtors, just by being on time.
Yeah. If you show up to a listing presentation, like even 5 minutes late, you're all frazzled. You're running out from the car to get to the house and you're out of breath. But if you show up 10, 15 minutes early and just park your car in front of the house, look through all the documents, listen to music, get pumped up. Like that's yeah, it's time well spent. And traffic isn't an excuse anymore, especially with Google. It tells you exactly how long it's going to take to get there. So if you show up and say, oh, sorry, there's traffic, like, I don't know, you're not starting a relationship on a good foot at all.
What one of our bold coaches used to do is he'd show up early and then he would stand in front of the house. He's like, I got a listing appointment, and he took a quick video in front of the house. He'd be like, hey guys, Mr. 123 Main Street, getting ready to list another beautiful property. Just want everyone to know this is coming to market soon. And like the sellers are like looking out the window, like, what's going on? He's like, oh yeah, just. And then anyway, so he goes through and he walks in like, oh, what are you doing? Like, oh, just have a coming soon video. I was just posting that, so letting all my followers know. And they're like, huh, kind of assuming the close a bit. But at the end of the day, it's like, why not? And that's an amazing show of confidence and then proactive, like letting the market know already you got pocket listings, who knows? So that's well spent time ahead of your appointments, right? Or if you're meeting buyers, same thing. I'm in front of a house, beautiful home on the market. This thing's really whatever you want to talk about, right? So we're off track. Go ahead, Edge.
All right.
We're never off track.
Yeah, just throwing nuggets at you guys. You catch what you want.
Exactly. Okay. It's been a while since we talked about DISC. Like the whole company used to work on this. So if you go to a giant conference for Keller Williams, like people would wear badges depending on their personality. So the DISC assessment is like it's a personality test. And the reason why we're doing this today and it's so important is that if you're going to win a buyer, they have to see a little bit of themselves in you. Okay. So let's say, there's the result driven client. They're called like a D personality, which stands for direct. If you start going into analytics with a direct person, you're wasting their time, and it's very off-putting if you're trying to gain them as a client. So like knowing these 4 different personalities, and for the most part, people are a blend of at least 2 of these things. It's really important to understand, what drives them, what makes them tick, what makes them calm, what makes them comfortable, and to speak to that level. So we start in the top left quadrant is the direct personality, and we go clockwise. So we go DISC, and that's where they get the name DISC personality, DISC assessment. A direct person is results driven. So they're very strong-willed. Like some people call them the A-type personality. They're firm. If you make a cold call and they're like, what can I do for you? Why are you calling? Like, you're dealing with a D type personality, a D. And so you want to mirror and match that. The next one's an I type personality. That's the influential. So if you run into an I and they can just talk, and they're the life of the party. You put them in the corner of the room and everyone gravitates towards them and they're yapping the whole time. That's the I personality. So that's the influencer. A lot of times if I meet an influencer, I find myself doing the nodding elephant and asking open-ended questions, and then they do the rest of the talking. And they have stories and stories and stories. They're very enthusiastic. They love people. Some of their traits are, they're enthusiastic, they're outgoing, lively, energetic. Chris is a DI, so those are his 2 personalities. Okay, he loves people. He can keep talking. He's outgoing, but he's results driven at the same time. Right? He wants answers. He doesn't want to. If you really want to lose Chris, you just pull a spreadsheet in front of him.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hiroshi, what do you think you are?
I'll go to mine later because I'm a DC.
Okay.
So the one thing about the D side of me is like, don't waste my time. My time is very precious. So if you're speaking the wrong, if you're just asking questions that are or just anyway, D's are very demanding as far as their time. So they want answers and results immediately. I's want to be involved with everything. They want to be life of the party. They want to be like they have that FOMO, right? Like they're the one person that didn't get invited to the hangout or whatever we're doing these days. But that is where they're very social and they need to have that connection. And yeah, so recognizing those things early means that you include them in everything. If they're not included, then their feelings are gonna get hurt. And so a lot more emotional. These are not emotional. Like you're not like if you didn't invite them to the party, they don't care. They want to know that something got done. Okay, what happened at the party? Okay, great, perfect. Tell me about it. Awesome.
If you're about to show up to a listing appointment and you already know that they're a D, you can bet that appointment's going to be about half hour of talking and going over comps and seeing what you do for marketing, and maybe another 20 minutes of signing papers, and you'll be out of there in less than an hour.
The only reason is because you talk too much. That's why those appointments go long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And recognizing that early, like they're just like, aside from price, you need to talk anything else about the CMA? Okay, this is what we need to price at. This is what we're going to do. This is the dates we're going to go live. This is what's going to happen. Any questions? Awesome, sign here. There's your appointment. Versus the eyes like, oh, show me some, fun marketing and artsy stuff and tell me more.
Tell me about your family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
oh, you play hockey, I play hockey. You must know this person. So when you're showing, so from a buyer's perspective, a D is like, what's important to you? How does this house feel? Or sorry, not how does this house feel? That's an S. But an I is like, who lives around this neighborhood? So if you know some of the neighbors and you're like, oh yeah, that person's a firefighter and they've been doing it for this long and they also do this side gig, like that's how you win an I in a buyer's showing when you're showing houses to an I. Now you have the S. So the S is really important because almost half the population lives in the steady area, and if you're working with a couple, you can bet that one of them is likely an S or has some sort of S trait to them. Okay. And the reason why the S is on the other side as a D is because they're totally conflicting. They're on opposite sides of the spectrum. So a steady person is very accommodating, patient, humble, even-tempered, like don't rock the boat. They like to be very comfortable. They stable. They're very safe with their money.
Mm-hmm.
They're risk averse.
They want benefits, paychecks every 2 weeks, knowing job security. They want to know that their house is going to be in a safe neighborhood. They're going to have, comfortable. Everything is around, security and comfort.
Yeah, and this is when you say, how does this home feel to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're very much about steady. Do you guys know Naomi in the office?
Yep.
I'm guessing everyone's nodding their head. She's like she's the perfect example of an S. She's the head of our support. If you go to Naomi with a problem, the first thing she's going to do is do this with her hair. Okay, Hiroshi, I'll get you the answers. Leave it with me. And because she loves to help, she's the mother hen.
She just cares so much, yeah.
Yeah, but if you go to her with a problem, she doesn't like that. So she's very, this is her first reaction.
The thing about S's, you guys, is they're the most dangerous people in this job for us because they make you feel good. They make you feel like you've got the gig. You go to the listing appointment, because if you talk to Naomi, think about it. She's like, oh yeah, lovey, everything's great. Yeah, I'll take care of you. Everything's going to be good. And then you leave her, and then she comes back like, oh no, you owe some money. You're like, that's our world. But at a listing appointment, they're like, yeah, they hug you on the way at the door, tell you how wonderful you did, such a wonderful presentation, you did great, I really like your marketing plan. And then 2 days later, you get the call. Yeah, we tried to go someone else. Yeah. And so like you walk out of there feeling like they really like you, and they do, and she really cares and wants you to feel good, and they give you that supportive love, and then they go with someone else.
So do they do that because they don't want the confrontation or the uncomfortableness of
yeah, they don't like friction, right? They're very cautious and wanting you to feel good in the moment. So they're like, they pat you on the back and then kick you out the door the next day. So
they're wonderful to have an appointment with because they'll always offer you tea and cookies. And your job at that moment is eat that dang cookie. Like if they offer you something, they don't like confrontation. They don't like no thank you. Eat the cookie, have the tea.
Yeah, take it.
Yeah.
But then speaking their language, right? Like Hiroshi said, like how it's going to make them feel and getting into that. So every conversation is different with these people. And that's what's going to, if you connect with them properly, they are going to be one of your biggest referrers and advocates. They may not like shout it from the rooftop like an I, but they will make everyone else feel that they are going to be in good hands with you.
Yeah.
I have an S that we just sold their house. She's the sweetest woman. She's already sent me 2 referrals in like a couple weeks. And it's just like, she is now our #1 promoter this month. It's like insane how wonderfully they treat you just like that. So, win them over and like you're golden.
Yeah, for sure. And then our last category, everyone's favorite category, is the compliant. So these are the very analytical uber analytical people. Like spreadsheets speak to them. We often say, prepare your consultations as if you're speaking to a C, except hope for a D, is because it's going to be a quicker appointment. But if you prepare for a C, now you have all the numbers, you have all the comparables, you've dug deep into each of them, because these guys are going to sit there with the pieces of paper, and that half-hour listing appointment that you had with a D, with a C, it could easily be 2 hours, no joke. They're gonna want to know about each house if they're high C's.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna want to know about the price, the history, the taxes, and then they're gonna make their own decision and go with it.
Yeah. So these are.
I had a listing appointment last Thursday, and I walked in with the papers and I sat down with the husband and wife, and I'd only spoken to him on the phone, and she was pretty quiet, nodded her head, and I go, okay, so I've got a bunch of info and a bunch of data, and I spread it on the table. I go, do you want me to go through this bit by bit, or do you want to just get the info? And he looked at the papers. He goes, I don't give a shit about this. He goes, I will listen to you though. And I went, all right. And I basically picked up the papers and I went, okay. And I put them to the side and went, oh shit, here we go. But that was like, he was very helpful in the sense of, no, I don't need to know the metrics, the data, the trend, the percentages. He just wanted to know how I was going to sell his house for this crazy number that he thinks he's going to get, which he might get close. And then I brought him down to a realistic number. Then he went, okay. He goes, that makes sense. And I go, good. He goes, because you're the expert. And I went, me? I'm like, oh, okay, great. So now I'm an expert. No pressure.
There's your D, right? He wants to know it, hear it directly. And that's a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
And David, he had a spouse?
Yep.
At the table? What was she like?
She chimed in a little bit, but she was, oh, that's a good idea. She was, yeah, oh, we can do that. Yep, I like that idea. So she was, she was very complimentary and
accommodating.
Opposite.
Very accommodating.
So here.
Yeah. So culturally wise, she fit what I thought she would, and he was very meat and potatoes, no bull BS about it. And he kept pointing out his back window. He goes, you're sitting here because you've got 3 signs on the corner of my street. He goes, you're the one that's going to sell my house. And I'm like, gulp, okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's the typical D appointment that takes half an hour to do and 20 minutes to sign.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quick. We quickly ran through the house and saw everything, and I'm like, okay, this is good. And yeah, paperwork was done later that night, and
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, it's but it's so important to understand these quadrants. And again, like nobody is just one thing. It's usually they have like a tail. So for example, Chris you're a DI or ID?
I'm a DIS, yeah.
DIS, yeah. And so you want to be very quick with Chris, but then like he still wants to get to know you as a person, and he's going to support you as well.
But at the beginning of my career, I was an ID. To be honest, I was super outgoing. It's all about hanging out, having friends, and just want to be more social. And then I'm like, oh, I'd probably start making money in this business. I literally just increased my D to the point where now it's like my time is like, don't mess around, right? Let's do this, get business done, and then we'll talk and play and have fun afterwards. And even more business now is like, I like you guys, you're my colleagues. I have a family. I like them more, no offense, but I have to spend more time with them, so I can spend less time having the fun, which is unfortunate. It breaks my heart in certain ways, but that's like the business that I'm in, and I've chosen to use my D in business more, and then I get to use the I in my personal time. Yeah. So you kind of evolve, right? You're gonna figure out what works for you. But when you're working with couples specifically, you're gonna have opposites attract. That's the one thing that. So your example, David, is like the D husband, S wife, right? And she's, perfect example is just being supportive, and he's like, hey, we're doing this, kind of bull in the china shop. This is how it gets done. And she's like, okay, just cleaning up the mess and trying to keep everyone happy, and everyone else, oh, he didn't mean it like that way. And then that's their life, and it works for them, right? And then you have the ICs where, if I were married to an accountant, they'd be like, this is the worst. Well, the old me, at least, that was very outgoing and social. So,
yeah. Whereas my other listing earlier in the week, the husband, we sat outside, they set up lawn chairs in the backyard. It was great. And I asked her a question, and she says, oh, this is the answer. I look at him, and he kind of goes, oh yeah, whatever she wants. And he probably caved in about 10 or 12 questions. And finally I looked at him and I go, can her and I just help buy you a house and you'll just tag along? He goes, pretty much. I'm good with whatever she says. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And he was fun. Like we had laughs and jokes and everything worked out well. But at some point I realized that she wore the pants in the family, and he was good with whatever she wanted. And I was like, okay.
You know what's funny? You say that, and then there's this moment where you're not in the room, and he has a very different opinion, and he's going to actually steer the ship more than you think in certain parts. But that won't come up until later, where like, oh, he needs a detached shop or whatever it is, and it's like that's a must for him that you didn't really see how much he was going to push back until the moment.
Yeah. When I went back about 4 days later to do a walkthrough and say, okay, so there had some touch-up paints and move some stuff around. I went back and I go, oh, you guys have done a lot of work. This is great, like leaps and bound difference. And he's standing in the corner, he's puffing his chest, and he's all proud of himself, right? And I go, is this all him? And she's like, yep. And he just starts beaming like a 5-year-old little boy that put away his toys, right? And I go, it's amazing. He can get a lot done when you really focus him, right? Like he's not in the room. And then he opens up, and now he's the biggest story. Like, yeah, it was super funny.
Yeah. It's good.
So it sounds like he started out as an S, but then his I really came through. So he's probably an IS.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the dollar store and get those little things of gold stars, and I'm going to pin them on his chest throughout the process. I'm like, good job, buddy.
It's perfect.
What I've learned is that there's a lot of money in C's. There are the engineers, the architects, the accountants, the CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
The C's only make up 9% of the population, so it's very little. But there's a lot of money in here.
But they're not referrers. That's the other part of it, right? They are not the chatty type that are going to stop a bus and say, hey, everybody on this bus, you need to know about Chris, right? They're the ones that are like quiet, reserved. If you get a referral from a C, it's like something special happened. So don't expect really either side of the left of the quadrant. The D's and the C's are not going to be referrers.
Yeah. And so I'll give you one tool that I often use to prepare for both buy side and sell side is that when you go to Paragon, can everyone see this?
Yep.
Go to the bottom here where it says sales reports by area. Open that. And this is only for the Vancouver board. I wish the Fraser Valley had this because it's pretty and you get all the.
I believe they do, H. We don't get access to it.
Oh, okay.
Mickey, are you in Fraser Valley board? If you pull up that right now on yours, do you have the same access to like Surrey and Langley and all that kind of stuff? Would you see?
I'll check. Give me a sec. My internet's running really slow. It's logged me off a couple of times.
Oh, geez.
Oh, maybe it's friends with Rogers.
Anyone else in Surrey that has access? They know.
So,
Good, H.
yeah, you go to this pull down menu, pick up any city, and this goes back to 2015 as well. So if they purchased a house 5 years ago, you can see where the market was, when they purchased. And then you get this PDF. You can print this. First of all, it's beautiful. And then they differentiate detached condos and townhouses here. And the most important thing that you're looking for, the information, is, first of all, this number, days on market. 28 is really low. A balanced market should be 40 to 50. But let's say you're dealing with a C client, right? And you say, oh, well, the average house sells in 28 days. Like they're going to be all over that stat. And the other one is sales to active ratio. So detached is 62%. It's probably hard to see.
Make your screen bigger.
Yeah. Condos are almost 100% and townhouses are 158. Like those are very extreme numbers. We haven't had this since 2016, but we are in a seller's market. To give you some perspective, a balanced market for these percentages is 12 to 20%. Anytime it's over 20%, it's a seller's market. When it's below 12%, it's a buyer's market. And that's what this green line signifies is a balanced market. It's that little stripe, that white stripe in the middle. Anytime it's above it, it's a seller's market. And so right now we're in a very heavy seller's market. Prices are going up. These squiggly lines here in 2018, you're able to predict whether the prices are going up or down or staying the same based on which market you're in. And then there's a couple other pages here as well, detached. Again, C's love this stuff. If you're dealing with a D, you probably don't even need to go over it. But these stats, they can really geek out over. So here's some detached properties, and then it goes through the specific areas and the benchmark prices and the 1 year change. Like, we all have access to it. It's really good. So again, that's on.
We do have it on the Fraser Valley site, but I actually like the GVRB one better because this is just it's a line graph essentially. It doesn't have the actual breakdown per neighborhood like you guys do with the days on market and all that. You can set it. I mean, the parameters for it are amazing. You can set whatever you want, but you just get a little a line graph at the end of it.
Are you in the stat report by area, or are you in the?
They've only got one. It's called Stat Center.
Stat Center, right?
Yeah, we got Stat Center here as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't see anything listed for stat by area. No.
Okay. So there's a really good course you guys can take, harnessing statistics to improve your business or whatever kind of second half of it, but harnessing statistics. So this is where you use these stats to paint the story, to tell the, understand the market, to really interpret it for your sellers or buyers. So I really strongly suggest taking that at one of these PDP credit courses when you can.
Yeah, that's with Phil Legree. He's a rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah, part owner of the other Van Central, Keller Williams.
Quick question, since we talked about courses, do we think that when COVID is less or our world is better, that all courses will go back to in person, or do you think they'll keep doing online Zoom?
I think they'll go back to in person to a degree, but they'll probably have some that are only. And I think that allows people from like northern BC and other stuff to log in and just not have to travel as much. So there will be a pivot. There will probably be a hybrid of it, but I would say they like to have you in class. And I like going to class. I think you get a little bit more from it. So when it's
because before COVID, there was nothing online for courses.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I think it'll be both. It's also up to us to give them feedback. Like personally, I much prefer in-person classes. And so every time I take a course and give them feedback, I say, this was a good course, but it would have been a lot more effective if it was in class. And so they'll get that feedback and work with it. I know they closed the Coquitlam Real Estate Board on Schoolhouse. And so, they used to have in class in there, but unfortunately, we'll probably have to go back to Vancouver or Surrey.
They didn't close it. We took it over, by the way.
Yeah. For you guys who didn't know, we're going to open an office in Coquitlam next to a bowling alley. So we'll have a pretty sick bowling team. And I'm looking forward to getting all the high scores in the arcade and finishing my day with a movie next door.
Yeah. They got about 5 good restaurants within throwing distance.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited about that office.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell.
But to finish up the disc, you guys, one really important thing you can do to understand is like career choices are literally you can pinpoint like those C's are like Hiroshi mentioned, like they're accountants, engineers, architects, mathletes, right? Anyone who's just like into this, teachers. D's are more like business owners and CEOs, and I's are going to be more in the service industry, and like you'll recognize this, but this is important for you guys to understand as quick as possible when you're working with people, because if you're talking that C to an I, you're at an open house, you're at a listening appointment or any point in a networking event, like talk their love language, right? If you're able to be that chameleon in this business, you're gonna make a lot of money, right? If you can actually start connecting with people on their map and speaking their language, you're gonna really understand how important that is. And this is, as a professional, it's your job to meet them on their map. You're getting paid very well to speak C to a C and D to a D. And if you're not an I, but you're a C, you got to be outgoing. You have to be energetic and ask them questions about their friends. And you get paid to do that. You may not enjoy doing it. That's why you go home and you do that at your house. Got it? So the more you can master this and understand that and be able to harness this and use it in your presentations and your abilities to meet people and on the phone, you're going to get, hey, what's up? Hey, this is the D. Okay, I'm talking D language real quick. And you start picking that up real quick, you're going to make more money. You're going to have better conversations. You're going to understand how people tick. If you really start like practicing and role playing that stuff, you really get it quicker. And that's like, you can talk with the rate of speech, right? C's are slow and analytical. They want to know before they even answer. There might be a pause.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what they're gonna say. I's are just flying off the shelf. They didn't even care, man. They say half. I didn't even know that was real. Like sometimes it just lied. I don't know. It was fun. I'd like change the butterflies, everything else around here, right? And like you'll absolutely notice. D's are like firm, direct, no bullshit, like your client there. And S's are gonna make you feel warm and like if you ever talk to Naomi, doesn't it just feel like she gives you a hug when you talk to her? Right? She's the sweetest person on the planet. She just loves everyone and makes you feel loved. But that's the thing. So if you can understand that or start connecting with them, and if you're talking to an S as a D, you might as well be punching them in the face.
And that's why it's important to also have your top 5 or 10 icebreaker questions that when you walk into a room or stand outside the front of a house, you throw out there, so what are we thinking? And you listen, because I know no surprise, I talk a lot. I'm learning how to shut up more when I'm around clients. And I ask the questions to pull out what they're hopefully pull out what they're thinking. And if she starts yammering about the pretty color, it reminds her of her grandma's house, yeah, she's probably the eye. And if he's like, yeah, I'm colorblind, I couldn't give a rat's ass, then I listen, right? But I think that's the big thing, is to ask the right questions and then listen to actually what they're saying to us.
Yeah. And in this crazy market, like when you're talking to realtors, do the exact same thing. Like just ask questions and shut up.
Mhm.
And it's amazing how much information you'll get from the other agent,
Sometimes way too much, which is
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, don't.
Why are they selling?
Yeah. Don't cut off realtors. Just be quiet and listen. It's amazing what you hear from them. Awesome. So we're good with this. If you want to know what your disc is, go to Tony Robbins has a really good test on his website, or Abelman's disc assessment. So either of those two websites, you can find out exactly where you sit with your disc. All right. So on our wiki site, I want to point out a couple things that'll help you with buyers under, I believe it's presentation package. Under presentation package and buyer consult, there's a few, there's an editable buyer consultation if you don't have a presentation yet. This one we'll delete because there's no link to it. But also, as importantly, there's a buyer lead sheet. So normal world, I always go for a cup of coffee with a new buyer, and I bring a lead sheet with me, just so I don't miss anything, because there are a lot of questions like that'll eventually be very important to buyers. Like let's say they have 2 cars and you start showing them townhouses with 1 parking lot, like that, you just wasted everyone's time. The sellers had to clean the house, get out, you know, maybe the listing agent's there, your buyers are there, you're there, like you just wasted half an hour of everyone's time and day. Same with pets. Like it's important that
And increase your screen.
Yeah, sorry guys, thanks. And you know, same with pets. Like these are questions that, you know, I've done these buyer appointments hundreds of times, but I still forget to ask because you get involved in the conversation and you digress, and then you gotta return back to here. Are you currently renting? Are you a lease? Are you in a lease? If no, if yes. This is probably the most important question, number 7. Are you going to be paying cash or getting a mortgage to purchase your home? Do you have a mortgage broker, or are you working with a bank? You know, if these are uncomfortable questions, then you're definitely asking the right ones. I don't get too far into money, but I do want to make sure that they're pre-qualified with a mortgage broker and not a bank, because there's a big difference between the two.
And I think down payment, I learned the hard way a few months ago that somebody thought their down payment of what they were selling, their down payment was coming out of that profit going towards where they were buying. And when it all kind of jived together, it's like, okay, so we're getting close. What kind of down payment are you guys comfortable? And their answer was, oh, we won't know until we sell our place, but we don't want to sell first, we want to buy first. And then I'm like, okay, that we've got to disconnect because that doesn't work that way.
Yeah, 100%.
It can with some bridge financing or flexibility from somebody, but it's the deposit that's the one that people sometimes miss, is that they don't realize they need to have like cash in a week.
Real money.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're selling at $1 million and buying at 1.5, their deposit's 75 grand, and a lot of people aren't going to have that liquid. Their expectation is that that deposit was going to come from the sale of their home. And there are mortgage brokers will be the right person to talk to. There are solutions to that.
Very expensive solution. So,
But yeah, again, I don't get too involved with the money as long as they're pre-approved and yeah. Usually, like a mortgage broker that I've used many times and I trust is perfect. Again, there's like good brokers and bad brokers, just like realtors and car mechanics. So yeah. Home search criterias, areas you love, areas you dislike, types of homes. Yeah. So this is all available to you as a buyer lead sheet. You can also Google it. Editable buyer consult. So that's the buyer presentation. Usually, like, I won't open the buyer consultation. I'll just give it to them at the end. But if you run out of things to talk about, it's very helpful. In there, you'll have the 6 steps to selling or buying a property. You'll have FAQs.
I like to touch on those because they come out of there feeling like they've been educated, which is really your job at that point, is to empower them, and then they're going to move faster with you
because they trust you.
Yeah, and they have the knowledge, so now they feel like they actually can take action because they, the path has been outlined. Here's what we need to do: talk to a mortgage broker, make sure a deposit's in order, figure out what our wants versus needs are, and so forth. And then all of a sudden you're out shopping in a week versus 3 weeks later they're still kind of humming and hawing because they haven't really gotten their ducks in a row.
And never assume that buyers know what you know. But months ago, I had a young couple, very first time buying, and they didn't know how many properties they got to see with me, and they didn't know how much it cost each time I took them out to see a house. And I was like, huh?
What do we have to
they thought,
yeah,
they thought that they paid for every time, like an hourly rate for every time I took them to an appointment.
That was me. I was their last realtor. I was charging them $200 a tour.
No, they said the last guy was a dick. Oh, hold on, never mind. I kid.
And like, it's true. Like, half the first-time buyers out there think that they have to pay a realtor commission. They don't know that it's free to them, right? That the commission's coming from the sellers. So yeah, it's really important. Also, PTT, huge point. Most people don't know, whether they qualify for the exemption. Some people think they do and they don't. Some people don't know about it until closing, and now they got to come up with $10,000 in cash. That's the worst phone call you'll ever get in your life.
It's stress for sure. One thing when you're going to go through this is you just want to ask them what their previous experiences are. So if like they bought a house last year, 2 years ago, like they're still pretty fresh. Like you don't necessarily need to go through verbatim this stuff. You're just going to kind of remind them some key dates and terms and contracts and stuff, right?
Yeah. If you're going to swipe this from the wiki site here, make sure you download it, not just change it on here, because then that's what Trish did. But yeah, make sure you download it and save it to your computer, change it. Like obviously these people, these mortgage professionals that you're going to recommend are going to be different. These inspectors are going to be different, even though these are rockstar inspectors. You're going to want to change that watermark, etc. So this is just kind of a guide. 29 pages is, again, it's planning for a C type client. It's a lot is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can edit, take what you like, keep it clean.
Yeah. So
email it, don't print it.
Yeah.
These are very useful. The other one I want to touch on is right here. So easy explain CPS and listing contract. On the buyer side, you just need the contract of purchase and sale easy explain. Like we're guiding these people through an 8-page contract that has a lot of legal jargon in it. This just puts it into layman terms. And if you just give this to them, that's sure, it's good enough, but of course, you're going to get a lot of questions fired at you, and if you don't have the answers, it's just going to look bad, and you're going to look like a rookie. So, go through each clause of the contract as homework. Make sure you really understand every clause and what they mean. Like, what does plural mean? What does risk mean? Your insurance starts at 12:01 of completion date, not possession date. So if the house burns down and you don't have insurance after completion date and there's 7 days before possession, the buyer's on the hook for it, and they should know that. That's an example. One thing that we're really getting caught up on these days, because it's a seller's market, is completion and possession date and adjustment date. Know what each one are. Know what each one is, and you have to know that you cannot complete on a weekend or statutory holidays, and Fridays could cause nightmares, so we don't like completing on them on Fridays either. Mondays to Thursdays, non-statutory holidays is best for completion dates. And possession, here it says 2 days after. 1 day will be sufficient. And possession adjustments are always on the same day. Oh, sorry. But yeah, know each of these talking points for the contracted purchase and sale. Most people will just want to go over the 5 major points. The 5 major points being purchase price, deposit, dates, inclusions, and subjects. So once you explain this to a buyer, from that conversation on, you're just going to hit on the 5 main points uniquely to each place that you're putting an offer on.
Hiroshi, I just wanted to add, I actually use that for the first couple of offers that we put in.
Yeah.
And it helped big time. I actually printed it out. It's a 1-pager. Read it over at night, the day before the consult, the day before we're going to go sign everything. And it was easy enough to remember, but it just kind of puts everything in short form so that when my buyers were actually asking me the questions, I wasn't looking back at a sheet or anything for answers. It would just come in top of mind, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend everyone kind of read it over.
Yeah, thanks, Mickey. Yeah, for sure. It's good stuff. So just to wrap up, buyers do's and don'ts, bring a lead sheet. Like, that's really important. I bring a lead sheet. I bring the buyer's consult presentation, notepad, and really take notes too. They'll respect you, and you'll remember. Like, if they say they have 3 dogs and all of a sudden you're showing them pet restricted properties, that's a very easy way to get fired, and it's just goodbye $10,000. Mortgage brokers info, bring that. They'll do the heavy lifting on the financial side. We have 3 brokers in our office that sponsor the office that are very good. I'm happy to recommend all of them. Ali Kassam, Craig Woodward, and Kyle Green. Does he still sponsor our office?
Yeah, be sure.
Yeah. Ford and Frog, so that stands for Family Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams, or Family Recreation, Occupation, and Goals, just because Dreams is a little cheesy. But if you run out of stuff to say, just say, tell me about your family. What do you do for work? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Don't give advice on mortgages and rates. I've fallen into that trap before, and we don't have time to educate ourselves on these new rules and new regulations and whatever. Just say, I don't do that, but I know the right person who do. Call this person, or they will call you. Don't ever be late. While you're in the appointment, don't answer calls or text. Like, I don't care if the potential client you're with is shopping for a mobile home, and that's going to be $250,000, and you're getting a call from a $2 million client. Just don't answer calls. It's rude. Make them feel like they're the only person in the room. And so we often say like the objective of your current appointment is to set your next appointment. So do whatever you can right now to set your next appointment, and now you're leading your buyer. So oftentimes how I end an appointment with a buyer at a coffee, they always take an hour. I'll say, okay, so here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to email you some listings. It's going to be about 20 to 30 listings that are in your parameter. Email me back a time that works for you to go see the ones that you want, and then email me a list of about 5 to 10 properties that you'd like to go see, and then I get a really good idea of what they're looking for. Good. And that just never ends. Every appointment ends with a plan for your next appointment. So even if it's a listing appointment, say, okay, now I'm going to have the stager call you. The photographer is going to call you to book. I'll be here next time when all that's finished, and I'll grab a key from you and put a lockbox on this date. Now, yeah, and again, that's to take control and take the lead on the conversation and expectations. Yeah, you just don't want your buyer and seller to say, "Oh, what's going to happen next? What now?"
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, 6 steps to buying: interview agent, get your pre-approval. It's important to get a pre-approval before you see homes. If they start seeing $900,000 homes and they end up only getting approved for $600,000, they're never going to be satisfied and they're never going to buy a home. Put an offer in, remove subjects, and then move in. Sean Kokoska's bold buyer presentation. So a little bit about Sean Kokoska is he's Diane Kokoska's son, and when he joined real estate, he sold 200 buyer ends a year. And the reason why he did so many is that he really zeroed in on exactly what the buyer wanted. So while most agents were showing 15 to 20 homes before the buyer bought, he only showed 5 because he did his buyer's consult so well. Yeah.
This is a must watch for you guys, to be honest. If you guys want to see what's smooth, just a well planned out plan of attack to talk to buyers and having a really clean presentation, even as a mortgage broker step in part of the presentation. It's just so worth watching, and take notes. This is how you couldn't do this any better.
Yeah.
We couldn't show you it.
He just runs this machine to every single buyer. It's about 20 minutes, I think. But I put it in the chat box. So yeah, he closes every single buyer and they see far fewer houses because he does his buyer's consult so well. Alrighty. So we're gonna do a new exercise. Like we like to bring in new models for you and try to coach you through your first year of real estate. And so our coach asked us to do this grow model with the people in the room today. We're going to do this in 3 different groups. So one group will be with Amin, another will be with Chris, and another will be with myself, based on the softball teams. And then we have some set questions that we want to ask. And then the grow model is really just to find out where you are, where you want to go, and what action you need to take in order to get there, and do a deep dive into your business and where you are. Obviously, it's a safe room. There's no wrong answer. Everyone's going to have different goals, but we'll do this for the next 25 minutes, and then we'll come back. Amin, do you want to put us in those rooms?
Yeah, Hiroshi, you want to just pull up the teams once again, real quick for me?
For sure. Again, like turn your camera on, just because, especially for this exercise, there's going to be more communication back and forth, and it just helps for our dialogue. Alrighty, and also hopefully my team can step up next week and get some appointments, and we'll be leading the charge by next week.
All right.